The first time I met the
beautiful.
alien queen,
Just
I
like
didn't
you.
know she was royalty.
I love it.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
even know she was alien, at least not in the way history books would later describe her. To me, she was just another refugee hiding among the wreckage of a forgotten border war, wrapped in scavenged cloth and bruised pride, staring at the stars as if they'd personally betrayed her. That was 15 years ago, back when humanity was still considered a minor species, useful muscle, expendable labor, and nothing more. I was a mechanic then, drifting from contract to contract on the edges of civilized space, fixing ships that no one important would miss if they exploded. I found her ship half buried in an asteroid's shadow, its hull cracked like a broken ribcage, power bleeding into vacuum. I could have salvaged it and walked away richer. Instead, I knocked on the airlock. She answered with a plasma knife pressed to my throat. We spent 3 days together in that ruined ship. 3 days of patching hull plates, rerouting dead conduits, and rationing air while pirates circled like vultures. She never told me her name, only that she'd lost everything, fleet, people, home. I believed her. Pain reads the same in any species. On the last day, before her engines finally lit and she prepared to leave, she pressed something into my hand. A necklace, thin, braided metal that shimmered between gold and deep violet, warm to the touch. At its center hung a small, asymmetrical crystal, faintly pulsing like a heartbeat. For a life debt, she said in broken trade common. If ever you stand before my people show this, you will not be harmed. I laughed because the idea was absurd. Me, standing before her people? Me, a nobody human mechanic? Still, I accepted it. Not because I believed her, but because it mattered to her that I did. Then she left, and the galaxy moved on. I forgot about the necklace for years. It stayed at the bottom of my locker through wars, through humanity's first real victories, through the slow, bloody climb from obscurity to relevance. By the time humans were invited, grudgingly, to sit on the fringes of interstellar councils, I'd traded my mechanic's tools for a uniform and a rank I never wanted. Commander Elias Rook, Human Expeditionary Forces, which is how I ended up standing in the grand chamber of Varelian Prime, surrounded by beings who could crush my skull with a gesture, summoned to answer for humanity's aggressive expansionism. And at the center of it all, seated upon a living throne of light and bone, was her. Queen Sereth of the Varelian sovereignty. She was taller than I remembered, crowned in living crystal, her presence filling the chamber like gravity itself. Her eyes, those same star-burned eyes, swept across delegations without interest until they landed on me. They didn't soften. They sharpened. The chamber fell silent as her voice echoed through every translator node. Human Commander, she said, tone cold and ceremonial. You stand accused of violating 13 treaties and destabilizing 4 sectors. Why should your species be spared retribution? Every instinct screamed at me to speak carefully. This was politics at a scale that erased civilizations. One wrong word, and humanity would be remembered as a cautionary tale. I could have argued statistics, trade benefits, mutual defense. Instead, my hand moved on its own. I reached beneath my uniform and drew out the necklace. The crystal caught the chamber's light. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the queen inhaled sharply. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But every Varelian in the chamber froze. Their bioluminescent markings flickered in disarray. The throne beneath Sereth dimmed, as if reacting to her shock. She rose slowly, steps unsteady, eyes locked on the object in my hand as though it were a ghost. That, she whispered, forgetting protocol, forgetting the galaxy watching her. That cannot be in your possession. I held it out, palm open. You gave it to me 15 years ago. Border asteroid. Your ship was dying. Memory crashed over her like a tidal wave. I saw it in her posture, the collapse of regal certainty into something raw and unguarded. She descended the dais without realizing it, stopping just an arm's length away. You were human, she said, voice trembling. I did not know then. I was fleeing an execution fleet. My own cousin sought my death. I know, I replied softly. You didn't owe me anything, but you paid your debt anyway. The chamber erupted. Advisors shouted. Guards raised weapons. No one had ever seen their queen step down from her throne during judgment, especially not for a human. Sereth raised one hand, and silence returned instantly. Do you know, she asked me, what that necklace signifies? I assumed it was sentimental, I said. Maybe symbolic. Her laugh was sharp, almost broken. It is the mark of continuance, given only by a reigning monarch to one who preserves the future of our species. There are 3 in existence. 3. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the chamber. I gave it away, she continued, voice steadying, because I believed my reign was over, because I believed my people were doomed, and a human, an insignificant, disregarded human, chose compassion over profit. She turned back toward the assembly, her presence snapping into something vast and terrifying. This human saved my life, she declared. Without him, I would not stand before you. Without him, there would be no Varelian sovereignty to defend treaties at all. The political temperature shifted instantly. Accusations became calculations. Enemies became cautious. Sereth returned to her throne, but she did not sit. Commander Rook, she said, humanity's expansion has been disruptive. Yes, but also necessary. You grow because you must, not because you seek domination. I swallowed. This was more mercy than we'd hoped for. Therefore, she continued, I invoke the ancient covenant. Humanity shall be recognized as a protector species. Any aggression against them shall be considered aggression against Varelian itself. The chamber exploded into chaos. Later, when the delegates were gone and history had quietly rewritten itself, she met me alone in a garden grown beneath artificial suns. The queen stood without crown or guards, looking smaller somehow, more like the woman in a broken ship. I never thought I'd see it again, she admitted, eyes lingering on the necklace. I was not ready. I almost didn't bring it, I said. Didn't think it mattered. She smiled sadly. That is why it mattered. We walked in silence for a while, among alien flowers that bent toward her light. You saved more than my life back then, she said at last. You reminded me what rule was for. Service. Protection. Trust. I shrugged. I just fixed your ship. No, she said gently. You fixed my faith. When I left Varelian Prime, the galaxy felt different. Not safer. Not kinder. But balanced in a way it hadn't been before. The necklace rests now in a secure vault, cataloged and studied by historians who still don't fully understand it. But sometimes, late at night, I remember the warmth of it in my hand and the look on a queen's face when the past stood before her. Undeniable. Humanity didn't rise because we were stronger. We rose because once when it mattered, we chose to help a stranger. And the galaxy never forgot it. Years later, long after the councils reshaped their borders and the historians finished arguing over who saved whom, I stood once more on Varelian Prime. This time I wasn't summoned. I was invited. The city had changed. Where once the towers had curved inward like defensive claws, they now opened toward the sky. Human ships rested beside Varelian spires, their designs still awkward next to living crystal, but welcome. Children of both species ran through the lower gardens, laughing in harmonies that translators no longer bothered to correct. Queen Sereth met me at the edge of the ascendant balcony, overlooking a horizon lit by 3 suns. She wore her crown again, but lighter now, less burdened. Time had not softened her authority, but it had refined it. "You came," she said. "I said I would," I replied. "Humans are stubborn like that." She smiled. "A real one. Rare. Earned." Below us, a fleet assembled, not for war, but for departure. A joint expedition. Human curiosity paired with Varelian foresight. The kind of thing that would have been unthinkable before a necklace changed hands in the dark. "You know," she said quietly, "there was a vote years ago, after you left." "Let me guess," I said. Long speeches. Heated arguments. Someone threatened ritual exile. Several someones, she admitted. The question was whether humanity deserved protection or containment. And she turned to face me fully. I ended the debate by placing the mark of continuance on the council floor. I asked them a single question: what kind of species saves a stranger with nothing to gain? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Sereth reached out, pressing something into my hand. The necklace, warm, familiar, alive. "It belongs with you," she said. "History can study replicas. This one has already chosen." I closed my fingers around it, feeling the faint pulse I remembered from long ago. "I'm not royalty," I said. "No," she agreed. "You're something rare." The fleet launched as the suns dipped below the horizon. Light spilled across crystal and steel alike, painting the sky in colors no single species had words for. As I boarded my ship, I realized something no treaty or title could capture. Humanity wasn't feared anymore. We weren't pitted. We weren't underestimated. We were trusted. All because, once, a tired mechanic chose kindness in the dark, and an alien queen remembered what that meant. The galaxy moves forward now, together. And somewhere out there, when the stars seem cold and the future uncertain, I like to think someone will make the same choice again. Because that's how legends really begin. Not with power, but with mercy.